Hey there, boys and girls. As you may have seen last time, we took the 2002 Dakota and made room for the new Super Duty Dana 60 front axle. There was some carnage. We lost a motor mount, we lost a cross member, we lost a few other things. So now, time to rebuild it, get some of that stuff put back together. Starting with the motor mount. Just want to take a quick second here to let you guys all know that there is now merchandise available on the Web Wheeler Teespring page. I've got a link in the description. You can pick up a t-shirt, sweatshirt, stickers, all that kind of stuff, and all that money goes back to helping support this channel and improving things. Buy yourself something cool, buy yourself a sticker for the rig, whatever you may find. Thank you guys so much for the support. Now back to the video. Alright, while that motor mount cools, we can turn our attention back to the frame that I hacked up on the last episode. I have a plumb bob here marking exactly where this front radiator support currently sits. I also measured the height of it, so I've got that referenced, but basically this is just going to tell me this is exactly where that radiator support sat before I did the damage that I'm about to do. I'll need to know that for when I get the new frame rail section in place, and that way we will be able to actually bolt our body back together. This probably would have been a good idea before I removed the cross member and everything, but yeah, at least I remembered eventually. Alright, now here is our stock section frame next to what I will be using to replace it. This is 3 by 4 by 1/4 inch wall rectangular tubing. It's going to be way overkill for what I'm doing probably, but hey, don't want to go too weak. I will be robbing this cutout for the body mount from the old section of frame just because I don't have the hole saw that is exactly the right size that it'll fit nice and tight, and this one has those flats on it that will keep it from spinning, and that way if I ever decide I need to do a little body lift or anything, I'm still using factory stuff, which is always nice. As you can see, I had to hack this frame rail all kinds of ways to get that axle to sit where I wanted it to sit. It's just not going to be worth trying to patch it up. We're going to replace it with this fresh stuff, and it'll be a lot cleaner, a lot stronger, and just turns out to be a lot easier in the long run. So the next step is to get this new section to somewhat match the geometry of the old frame rail. There's some curvature here that I don't want because it was getting in the way of the tire, so what we'll do is we'll just kind of simplify it for when we make it out of the rectangular tubing. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So here's kind of the layout of where I want this to end up. I want to basically come straight in to the body mount here, and then basically making it a straight shot out to this corner. This silver Sharpie mark is marking out where this stuff is 3 inches wide, so once it gets past this mark, it starts to flare out into quite a bit bigger cross section. That's where I'll end up beveling the cut. And that way this is just taking one bend and straight shotting over to here. I don't really want to try and replicate this S-curve because in here was hitting against the tire anyway, so taking that corner out will help give me more tire clearance. Alright, so we are looking at 12 degrees. Okay, 6 degrees, at 12-degree angle cut in half. Now we should just be able to cut this once and then flip it around. It'll give us a 12-degree turn. Alright, and here is how the replacement section of frame will sit relative to where the frame was. As you can see, we're pretty much exactly the same in the back here, and then once it starts to take the turn, we gain a bunch of clearance on the outside. We gain a little bit of clearance actually on the inside where the engine is as well, which will be kind of nice. And I lied, I did end up having to make it somewhat of an S-curve. That is because there wasn't enough clearance from the radiator support to where the body mount needs to be for me to just straight shot it. That angle was messing it up. And this also will give me some extra stock to put it past that radiator support, and that way it'll give me something to mount a bumper and stuff onto when we get to that point. I also have some extra stock on the back side of this new frame section so that I have some wiggle room when I'm trying to fit this thing up to the existing frame and still hit that body mount up front. I know I'm not good enough to make it perfect the first time, so we'll give myself some extra wiggle room, and then we'll have some space to kind of sneak up on it and get it exactly where I want it to be. Now we can weld this thing up and get it in place. Now I know it looks like I just set this frame rail up here and it lines up perfectly with the existing frame rail and that body mount up front. Reality is, I cut out about an hour of me taking that thing on and off, trimming it, fitting it, and trying to get all my gaps to line up correctly and put that body mount in the right place. So don't be fooled. That did not happen nearly as easy as it looks like it did here. Now there are some things to consider when we start welding this thing up. As we weld this new section of frame to the old section, it is going to move around. The weld will pull, so it's going to want to move the frame rail pretty significantly. Well, right now I know it's off camera, but I can see that our mark from earlier is sitting to where the frame rail is actually a little bit outside of where it needs to be. It needs to get pulled towards the passenger side, and our height is a little bit low. So that means we want our frame rail to pull in towards the engine and up so that it ends up closer to where we want it to be. I'm going to weld from the top outside corner in towards the motor, because that will pull it not only up, but that'll actually start to pull it in towards the passenger side. And then I'll also weld that back side to pull it even further in that way, and then I can weld around the rest of it. I did leave this body mount plate floating up here in the front of the new frame section so that I can dial everything in once the frame is welded together and cooled down and settled where it's going to be. That's all we have time for in this episode, but in the next episode I'm going to be showing you guys how I plate over the joint between the old frame and the new frame, and then we can start rebuilding the frame side motor mount, and we'll get that radiator support dialed into right where it needs to be. Doesn't sound like much, but that stuff's going to take quite a bit of time, so we'll save that for the next one. But if you made it this far, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.